he's more of a faker.
Hello and welcome. I'm your host Will. On this channel, we've talked about the multiple origins of several He-Man characters, and in this video, we're gonna talk about one who not only has multiple origins, but also how vastly different they are. In this video, let's dive into the facts on Faker. Let's get to it. There was a character released in 1983 with the second wave of Masters of the Universe action figures that, despite being one of the earliest characters in the Masters of the Universe franchise, did not receive an introductory mini-comic at launch. Well, I'm talking about Faker here, who is, in my opinion, one of the most inherently inconsistent characters in the entire franchise. Mind you, I am not saying this because the lore around his character is messy. Rather, I'm saying this because somehow, each continuity has taken a unique creative decision regarding his core identity. Is he a robot? A magical construct? A botched spell? A reprogrammed hero's tool? A psychotic killer? Or a prison escapee? If you wish to get some answers about this being here whose fundamental essence itself is up for debate, join me in this exciting ride, and let's find out everything there is to know about Faker. The 1983 action figure and Filmation series guide, The Contradictory Beginning. Truth be told, Faker's origin problem started immediately upon his release. Allow me to explain things here. You see, the Faker toy figure, which was released in 1983, was essentially a repaint of He-Man, molded in blue plastic with orange hair and purple Skeletor-style armor. Marketed as the evil robot of Skeletor, the Mattel-sanctioned origin of Faker
You're Faker. You look like He-Man, only you're evil.
Was downright explicit, with a cardback text clearly stating that Faker was no mortal man, but rather an evil robot crafted by Skeletor. Additionally, the action figure came with a unique orange armor piece that was detachable and covered a sticker directly placed in the center of the blue torso. Mind you, the sticker was specifically designed to represent evil robot circuitry, and while some early models featured a larger sticker that wasn't entirely covered by the armor, later versions, or should I say the more popular versions, had a smaller, more covert sticker. The 1983 packaging also emphasized Faker's Power Punch action feature and his inclusion in the Evil Warriors faction. Now, I don't know how many of you know this, but before the Filmation series aired, Mattel did provide licensees with a Filmation series guide, one that functioned more as a character description. The Faker pre-production document stated that the character was an evil, imperfect double of He-Man. As a result of being mystically created, Faker was supposed to be a perfect replica of He-Man, controlled only by Skeletor. However, something went wrong with the spell, and the He-Man duplicate turned out to be a miscolored negative version of the original. While there is no denying that Skeletor used sorcery to make Faker resemble exactly like He-Man, but because the spell only lasted for a while, his true evil self was exposed as soon as the magic wore off. It categorically goes without saying that the action figure packaging was immediately at odds with this whole magical creation origin. Furthermore, the Filmation series guide origin also introduced a pretty important detail that came up in a lot of stories later. Here I'd like to emphasize on the part that said something went wrong in the spell, which did indicate that Faker was intended to be a ditto copy of He-Man when he was being created, but instead, he turned out to be a miscolored negative version of the hero. So, in a way, the blue skin, or more accurately the imperfection, wasn't exactly a design choice in the in-universe logic. It just showed that Faker was an unsuccessful spell or a mistake, to be more precise. Exploring Faker in the Filmation animated series, 1983 to 1985. While Lou Scheimer's He-Man spanned across 2 seasons, generating a total of 130 exhilarating episodes, it's a pity that one of the most conceptually interesting characters in the franchise got less than 5 minutes of screen time. Believe me when I tell you that Faker's only Filmation appearance is in the episode titled The Shaping Staff, where he appears right out of thin air mid-episode when he gets magically conjured by Skeletor. Mind you, Faker in this continuity has no backstory, no prior existence, and he is anything but a robot here. Appearing as an evil double of He-Man, Faker has the same skin tone, hair color, and armor, but what sets him apart is his glowing white eyes, and add to this, a hollow-sounding voice. Given Faker's nearly perfect resemblance to He-Man, Skeletor orders him to trick the sorceress and get her outside Castle Grayskull, where her magic is weaker. Faker pretends to be an injured He-Man and effectively manages to lure the sorceress outside, where she gets overpowered by Evil Lyn. Here, I'd like to add an important observation that I made. In the episode, Skeletor specifically states to Faker that the sorceress will mistake him for He-Man in the dim light. This clearly means that the writers were well aware of the character's imperfect disguise and that it required low lighting to work. Now, given that the identical design was an intentional cost-saving decision made by the Filmation series, I liked how the episode paid great attention to detail. After all, the original Faker action figure had blue skin, orange hair, and a purple Skeletor-style armor, which made him visually distinct. Of course, Filmation knew this would be unconvincing as a disguise, which is why they ended up redesigning Faker to look exactly like He-Man by reusing all the existing He-Man slides and not drawing anything new. In a way, this deliberate cost-cutting choice accidentally made the character of Faker more logical in terms of its narrative, and, if you ask me, a nearly perfect replica is definitely frightening. But I'm afraid I can't say the same about a blue-skinned robot toy. Anyway, back to the episode. Faker is seen engaging in a very brief battle with the real He-Man, where he showcases his superhuman strength. In fact, when He-Man hurls a massive rock at the evil clone, Faker effortlessly punches it to rubble. That's not all. With He-Man charging at Faker, the latter sidesteps and almost sends him towards the bottomless abyss around the castle. But He-Man manages to catch the edge, and using one of Faker's legs, he is able to swing himself back in no time. However, Faker angrily charges at He-Man, who sidesteps this time, and this causes Faker to plummet into the bottomless gorge, never to be seen again in the Filmation series. Now, I'm not gonna deny that Paul Dini did confirm in an interview later that he intended to bring back Faker in a future episode. In fact, Dini envisioned Faker evolving into a Bizarro-type enemy, acting as this twisted, evil mirror image of He-Man, but without the broken, halting speech that is often associated with the character Bizarro. But unfortunately, that particular episode was never commissioned, and the Filmation series ended with Faker at the bottom of the very abyss. Faker in the vintage minicomics, a robot defeated by a king. In case I've not been clear enough, Faker was the very next wave of characters designed to expand the toy's popularity, and despite his limited media appearance, he was already a fan-favorite villain. Truth be told, it was Faker's iconic action figure, the one that was released as the evil robot of Skeletor, which made him instantly appealing to kids. And it is important that we remember that he had already established his position as a cool villain, even before his appearance in the minicomic titled The Search for Keldor. Now, the comic, which was packaged with the action figures of Faker, King Randor, the Sorceress, Blast Attack, Clamp Champ, Scareglow, and Ninjor, clearly depicts Faker as a robot. While I will definitely be getting to the part that has Faker, let's take a quick look at the storyline so that all of us are on the same page. Many things have changed on Eternia since the three towers were raised from the ground. For instance, the Sorceress now has the power to leave Grayskull in her human form. The readers also learn that once a year at a particular time, the veil between the dimensions goes weak for an hour. This gives Sorceress a chance to tap into the power from the three towers and use it to open the dimensional gate so that King Randor can look into the past and find his long-lost brother, Keldor, who was lost in dimensions beyond time while trying to master the forces of magic. When Skeletor learns about this, he is hell-bent on not letting anyone discover the secret of Keldor. He knows that the knowledge could destroy him. Naturally, he vows to stop the meddling of King Randor and the Sorceress, and ends up summoning the most evil beings of time and space to Eternia to do his bidding. Here, I am talking about Scareglow and Ninjor, who are specifically sent after Prince Adam and Clamp Champ, who are patrolling the area. Upon realizing that King Randor is mere seconds from seeing the truth, Skeletor hastily brings along with him Faker, his robotic He-Man, to deal with King Randor, and, most importantly, to stop the King and the Sorceress from learning anything further about Keldor's fate. Faker's low-level henchman status, even among Skeletor's forces, is openly demonstrated by the fact that Skeletor explicitly said in the minicomic that he had no time to find suitable underlings, further implying that he was ultimately obliged to bring whoever was available at the moment. Now, coming to the main part in the comic that all of you have been waiting for. Skeletor confronts the sorceress while Faker attempts to impersonate He-Man and distract King Randor. Of course, King Randor sees through the ruse and makes it clear that he cannot be fooled by Faker. With King Randor engaging himself in a duel against Skeletor, the latter commands Faker to overpower the sorceress, who, by then, has become rather weak from all the spell casting. Upon seeing the sorceress defenseless and in danger, King Randor destroys Faker by impaling him through the chest with his royal spear. In short, Faker, who appears in the comic in roughly 5 panels, becomes the recipient of a swift and undignified defeat at the hands of a king who, to be honest, has no special powers. Now it is quite fitting to state that Faker's role in the minicomic is purposefully small, and there's a high chance that he was just used as expendable cannon fodder to give King Randor a heroic moment. Well, I find no reason not to see this as a genuine possibility. What's more is, Faker is back to his unique blue skin design, an appearance that has been consistent with his action figure look. Additionally, his depiction as an imposter meant to trick King Randor reinforces the whole evil robot persona that made the toy popular in the first place. Moreover, the mini-comic also confirms a very important piece of lore about Skeletor's motivation. There is a thematic link between Faker's deceptive nature and Skeletor's hidden past, because this is also the first time where Faker's role as a He-Man impersonator is utilized to safeguard Skeletor's secret identity. If you and I are on the same page regarding this, please do head into the comments section right away. I would love to know more of your thoughts on this. How did the MOTU Classics Toyline bio explore the origin of Faker? In 2009, the MOTU Classics Toyline released a Faker figure that was authentic to the vintage original by repurposing the He-Man Classics body cast in blue plastic with new paint applications, orange hair, and a chest sticker that showed internal circuitry. The bio card on the back of the packaging gave Faker what I believe is his most complete and unexpected origin in any continuity. According to the bio text, Man-at-Arms built Faker to cover for He-Man whenever Prince Adam was needed. However, Faker was abandoned after his first mission and discarded in the royal junkyard, where he was found by the evil warrior member Triclops. It was Triclops who brought Faker to Skeletor, and it goes without saying that Skeletor had him reprogrammed, giving Faker the same body, same capabilities, and most importantly, the same face, but all of these for the opposite purpose. Faker had a new mission, which was to persuade the Eternian populace that He-Man had deceived King Randor and turned to evil. The reason why I am so intrigued by this toy package bio is because, in some way, it manages to give the most radical reimagining of Faker's origin, and it accomplishes this by simply reversing the character's alignment completely. In practically every version, Faker is portrayed as an evil being right from the very beginning, but it is here that he is created for the first time by a hero, Man-at-Arms to be more precise, as an effective tool to cover for Prince Adam's disappearances whenever he needed to transform into He-Man. To find Faker built to protect Prince Adam's secret by occupying his social role was definitely something that I did not anticipate. But then, after he was abandoned post his first mission for reasons that have not been mentioned in the bio, he was found and salvaged by Triclops, who brought him to Skeletor. I think it's fitting to admit that the Classics Toyline bio came up with the franchise's most damning version of Faker's story. He wasn't created evil. When he was made, he had a purpose, but after he was thrown away, he was reconstructed for the opposite purpose. Exploring Faker in the 2002 MYP series, The Wasted Concept. While it is true that Faker never really appeared in the 2002 series, at least not as an active character, there is no denying that he was planned for the 3rd season, which was sadly never made. In my opinion, Faker is the character that the franchise categorically kept failing at and never managed to come up with a proper story. In fact, his planned role for the unproduced 3rd season of He-Man and the Masters of the Universe was also confirmed by multiple sources, which is why we are going to look at a few things here. I am taking this into consideration that most of you have seen the MYP series, so try recalling the episode The Courage of Adam from the 1st season. Believe me when I tell you that this episode had one of the most exciting Easter eggs in the entire franchise. So, in the episode after Skeletor kidnaps Prince Adam in order to lure He-Man into a trap, Man-at-Arms develops a holographic robot of He-Man for tactical purposes. But after the He-Man robot gets hit by Skeletor's staff, the hologram flickers and briefly displays blue skin, or should I say, Faker's iconic blue skin, right before getting deactivated. I don't know how many of you know this, but this whole thing was intentionally staged by the showrunners, and the production team has verified this. Apparently, the plan for the third season was to have Faker fully activated and then reprogrammed by Skeletor. No points for guessing that his goal would have been to infiltrate Eternia under the guise of He-Man, carry out actions that would turn everyone against him, and methodically dismantle the real He-Man's relationships and reputation. Of course, this would have been the classic's toyline bio-origin in animated form, and in my opinion, it would have been epic. I honestly think I would have pretty much enjoyed an entire season arc built around He-Man being falsely accused and socially isolated, all thanks to his reprogrammed double. I cannot tell you how much I actually hated the fact that the most ambitious story ever planned for Faker did not materialize, and the series was cancelled after the second season, primarily because of declining toy sales. Faker in Marvel's Star Comics. Mike Carlin and Ron Wilson's Long Live the King has a lot happening in terms of its storyline, but my focus will strictly be on the character of Faker. Now that I have cleared that, I think it's fair to admit that the comic truly deserves a special mention for introducing Faker as a serious threat here, and firmly moving away from the whole blue robot toy gimmick. In the comic, Faker initially appears with a blue skin tone along with Ninjor, Blast Attack, and Scareglow, after Skeletor calls on the forces of evil for help, and he is particularly introduced in the comic as Skeletor's old cybernetic imitation of He-Man. Now, this version of Faker becomes almost indistinguishable from the real He-Man after Skeletor magically changes Faker's skin from blue to He-Man's skin color, thereby also leading to one of the most effective deceptions in the comic run. Additionally, with Faker looking and acting like the hero, he is welcomed by both King Randor and Queen Marlena at the Royal Palace, and he even ends up fooling Clampchamp. It is only after King Randor witnesses the fake He-Man teaming up with the likes of Skeletor that he ends up knocking out Faker, while still believing that he had clobbered the real He-Man. Of course, his confusion is cleared up when he finds the real He-Man engaged in a battle with Ninjor and Skeletor outside the palace. Faker's exposure in the comics is the oldest and most reliable way of unmasking a duplicate in any story, and I absolutely love how Carlin instinctively understood the character's best dramatic use.
Because this isn't the real He-Man. He's more of a faker.
Faker in Masters of the Universe Revelation, Netflix 2021. Faker's appearance in the Netflix series Masters of the Universe Revelation is limited to just the first episode. In The Power of Grayskull, Skeletor uses the shaping stuff to make Faker look like an exact copy of He-Man. So much so that even the sorceress mistakes him for the real He-Man, and when Faker actually reveals his true form, which is basically a robot being with glowing red eyes, he looks quite intimidating. Now, as a robotic duplicate in service to Skeletor, it is impossible to set this version of Faker apart from the original He-Man right at the beginning of the episode. In fact, Faker manages to hold off his disguise until the sorceress, whom he had grabbed from behind, uses her magic to burn off his skin, thus revealing his robotic self. Also, with the sorceress blasting off both the arms of Faker in the process, he instantly starts to reassemble himself like it's no big deal. I think Faker would have overpowered the sorceress had he not been interrupted by Man-at-Arms, who had a laser beam fired at him, resorting to his wrist gauntlet and ended up cutting him in half. Now, if someone were to ask me to define Faker in my own words, I am not sure if I would be able to do so. After all, he is quite unsettling, with him having the face, body, and power of the mightiest man in the universe. Everything that makes He-Man heroic, Faker has it all, and he uses all of that for sheer evil. So, who is he exactly? According to many fan interpretations, Faker is a tragic living wonder, and some have even stated that he is a creation capable of developing a soul. But I think I'd like to know what your interpretation of Faker is. Feel free to share your thoughts with me in the comments section down below. Well, I hate to admit, but this is all I have for today, and we have reached the end of the video. I would love to know which origin of Faker you sincerely love the most. I personally happen to be a fan of the classics toyline bio. Now, if you enjoyed this video, you know what to do. Please leave a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel for more such videos. As for me, I promise to come back with another favorite video real soon. Thanks for watching and have a good one!